Hey, everybody. This is Carol Lake with Total Wellness Coach. Hello from Florida. And we have Steve Mans with us. And he's actually where this time?
In Washington.
He's in Washington. So, look, you got us both on opposite sides of the USA. And we're here to
As
bring you
far
some more.
apart as we can get.
Exactly. But we are bringing you health and wellness tips to keep us strong, vibrant, and not vintage. Definitely keeping our mind, our spirit, anything so that as we age gracefully and not be a part of the medical system or the pharmaceutical system. That's kind of what we do both. And today we are going to be sharing topics about when we have clients coming in to see us, what our first initial steps are. So I'm going to start with Steve so that you can get an understanding, again, a little bit about his background and then what his approach is with clients. All right, Steve, share away.
All right. So, obviously, the first thing that we need to do is to figure out where that particular client is. Um,
Mhm.
if we're working with the people that I work with that have Parkinson's, then I need to know I need to kind of assess their physical attributes so I can determine how intense those exercises can be and
Mhm.
what positions they're able to get into, um, depending on if it's early onset Parkinson's or if it's pretty progressed. But wherever it is on the spectrum, um, definitely have things that we can do physically to get them more active, to get them to be able to function better in their environment, because that's what basically exercise is.
Mhm.
No matter what anybody tells you, you know, what's the goal of exercise? The goal of exercise is to make your life easier. I mean, when it
Yeah.
gets really right down to it.
Mhm. Do you
So those
also
are,
help them with besides exercising, do you do like diet with them or a mindset, anything spiritual to help them with their progress?
yeah. So, we've talked about this before, as far as having, a whole foods diet. I think that's like super important. I don't think we'll ever be in a position, and this is just my personal opinion, to know exactly what caused the condition of the people
Hmm.
that we're working with, just
Right.
because of all the environmental toxins, you know, genetic history that plays a small part, and what's in the water. We've talked about water before.
Hmm.
What's in the water, does that affect our epigenetics? And um, air quality, all of these things could play a part into which, well, a myriad of different diseases and
Hmm.
conditions that humans have. So trying to, and we have to meet those clients where they are too, because some people aren't ready to change all of the other things. They're ready to do some exercise. And then as we work with them, that might not be the first thing that we do talk about nutrition and some of these other things, unless they're really gung ho about doing those things, but starting with exercise. And then we can latch on the nutrition and the social aspect of it and the nature aspect of it and even the breathing and meditation aspect of it to increase their health and wellness. Every
Hmm.
single person is different, and I always explain to every single client that's n equals one. So we are all an experiment of one, and we need to really drill down to find out what's going to work for that particular person.
Hmm.
And, you know, Carol, you and I are on the same page with a lot of these health and wellness things, but
Hmm.
there's things that work differently for you than they work for me. And
Correct.
it's going to be that for every single person that we deal with. And it takes some time, but drilling down and finding out what those things are is going to make that person healthier and their brain be able to function better
Hmm. Hmm.
and be able to
You
do
know,
more.
so I do have another question, and I'm sure many people watching this podcast would ask too. What are your sessions? Do you have like a month to month, or is it a 12 week? How do you with your clients? Do they sign up for a program?
So it can work a bunch of different ways. If somebody's coming to me for the exercise portion of it, then
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like, okay, well, if we're talking about Parkinson's, that has to be like a longer term thing.
Right.
Um, and what that looks like for each individual is different. If we're just focusing on the health and wellness piece, then a 2-month program, an intensive program to talk about the nutrition, the exercise, the social connection, the nature connection, the breathing, the stress. How do you deal with stress? And
Mm-hmm.
the meditation are all pulled into, a health and wellness program. And that could be two
Got
months.
it.
I can expand it further. Again, you know, is this person really gung ho and they can really take on a lot? Or do they need it dripped over time, basically? Because every single
Okay.
person's different.
Nice. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's any other questions that somebody may come back and want to ask you. So, what would be some of the questions if you were, you know, that you hear the most when someone reaches out to you?
So what questions do I hear the most?
Hmm.
Um, I think probably, um, if we're talking about the exercise portion, it's about the different types of exercises that they're going to be doing. And,
Okay.
that's a setup as far as like an assessment goes, um, to see where they are. As, you know, if I was working with them initially virtually, then we would do the simplest stuff first and then slowly progress to a little more complicated things. Um, Fortunately,
Hmm.
with Zoom and everything, we can do that, um,
Correct.
and be able to assess that a little bit better.
Okay. So, you're all by Zoom with
Correct.
your clients.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So that's good to know and share with everybody. So, anything else that you would like to share with our listeners today?
No, I think, what I'd like to share is that you know it's important for all of us to figure out what gets us up in the morning, and
Mhm.
what gets me up in the morning is to connect with these people, to have develop a better life for them in their environment and make it easier for them.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I agree. That's why you do what you do, and that's why what I do. So for me with my programs, because I kind of encompass, the whole total wellness. That's why I
Right.
call myself total wellness coach because it deals with the physical, your body. It deals with the exercise, the diet, the mindset, the spirituality. But then I dive even deeper into, root causes for some people. Let's get into the emotional aspect of it. And then I also get into the metaphysical, which is more of the spiritual side because we are all energy. Um, and so for like my programs, it's not a one size fits all,
Hmm.
which I'm sure that's how you approach yours. So when I have somebody who contacts me, reaches out, because I always give, I always say it's a free 15-minute consultation. However, it sometimes turns into a good 45 minutes because I really want to
Yeah, that's right.
truly understand what the person wants and needs before
Right.
it's just also to make sure we are a good fit
Oh yeah,
with what
definitely.
I want the person, what they're doing. So like my programs, they can range anywhere from a 4-week session to um, it could be 6 months. So if somebody is wanting a very long lasting, because I tell people it takes about 3 to 6 months to change a behavior or a pattern. And
Right.
when I say behavior or pattern, we're going to talk like somebody who may be addicted to sugar. So when someone comes into me and they tell me the first thing what they want to do, and a lot of people, it's mostly like, I want to lose weight. Okay, great. But there's more aspects to losing weight. What's your physical? How, are you getting the exercise? How much water are you drinking? Do you take time for yourself or are you somebody whose schedule's so busy? How do we incorporate these changes so that we can get you to where you need to be? So my programs, like I said, it depends on the clients. I have the health coaching sessions. I have the dementia Alzheimer's sessions to help them, or people. Mostly when I have those sessions, those are caregivers that are reaching out to me. And I'm going to be work with a lot of aging parents of my clients so that we can try to stimulate the neuroplasticity in the brain and help them to keep their cognitive health strong. um, but I teach couples shamanic Reiki for each other in
Oh,
couples
nice.
therapy because couples need to know how to connect, not
Mhm.
just physically, but that energetic touch, because we're all this electricity, this energy that when you get together, it's great to share. So I teach them how to do that for each other. And then I also teach clients, several of my clients, they come to me just because they want to know products. Let's go grocery shopping. Let's go to the store and let's pick out what's healthy for the body. A lot of people are not, I don't want to say getting tired, but they're realizing the toxins that's in our food and in the products that we put on our body. So, what products can they use to help them so that if they're making all these beautiful changes, they want to incorporate everything at that point? So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's kind of like I tell people, if you're like an onion, we're going to start peeling back some layers, or actually a rose. We'll peel back some of the flower petals, and we're going to figure out what is going on and how to help you the most. Especially with my bodybuilding women who come in and they want to get lean and mean and start burning those calories. Yeah, I'm going to get you on a fat burning diet, and you're going to learn macros. You're going to learn what your fat, your carbs, and your protein intake is, besides cutting out all those foods that I call would stop you from getting lean, mean, and healthy and strong quickly. So yeah, it just depends on what their program is. So
Right.
and most of my clients when they come in, they usually I give them the information. I'm somebody who never pressures anybody into. I'm not a salesperson. I think that's the first thing anybody who would meet, they're like, well, she didn't really try to sell us a program. No, if you feel drawn to me and you feel like I can help you, then I'm going to be your biggest advocate. I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. I will also be laying down the law.
Yeah. Right.
My clients have access to me 7 days a week. They can email me, text me, do a phone call. Besides having once a week sessions, because we have to stay on schedule.
Right.
Sometimes some of my clients are twice a week because they need that support.
Right.
And I'm sure you're exactly the same way,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
because once they get on this, I call it, it really kicks in for them, and they start seeing the pounds dropping off, they notice the energy, they notice their attitude changes, then they want more because
Right.
they see it. And it's kind of contagious because once they're really into this, it's like, okay, let's keep going. We got this. We got this.
That's
So
great.
yeah, yeah. So, and those are, like I said, the way I help my clients. This is the way Steve helps his clients. Um, is there any information we can share? Um, like, to besides our emails and hopefully just watching these podcasts can help.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great place to start because, you know, a lot of people don't even know there's a problem until somebody says, did you ever think about things this way? Or did you ever think about something this way? And,
Mhm.
bringing those things up, I think in our kind of situation that we're in right now, it's like, okay, we've been exposed to these things for so long, we just feel like it's normal. And
Yeah.
people don't know what the other side is until they experience it. So,
Hmm.
and it's hard for people to know what the problems are, or the issues could be from them working optimally in their life and their, whether that's with their love, with their work, and with their energy. Um, so us talking about these things, and if you're following along
Hmm.
with us, we'll be talking about different topics just
Yep.
so people can be aware of, like, oh, there is another way
Hmm.
to be healthy. There's, like, I've never thought about it this way, but we talked about it in this particular session, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could have a ton more energy. I could be,
Mm-hmm.
sleeping better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, tons of different topics.
Right. And people don't realize that there's so many other healing modalities with the use of like crystals. I use sound. Um, affirmations. I even have some of my clients that get on um, like the high frequency where you don't have to hear it, but it's a machine that you turn on, and it's
Yeah,
basically giving you the energy that your body needs to repair cells. And I also am a LifeWave representative, so using the patches, the X39, the X49s, that's going to help boost your own body's production of stem cells, or the BFR bands that I promote. Wearing the bands, working out in half the time with lifting weights. But what you're doing is you're building muscle, you're producing your own human growth hormone. Hello, success. And
yeah,
I have a lot of clients that, purchase the BFR bands from me, and I help them with their routines with working out, and they're dropping the pounds. They're actually physically dropping the pounds, getting leaner, and not working
right.
out, because there's a lot of people who just they dislike working out. So again, that's topics that I have this huge questionnaire that I send my clients because I want to know everything. I also want to know if they're in a relationship and they have children or a husband or a wife, is your significant other on board with what you're wanting?
Yeah, super
Because
important.
sometimes that can make or break
Yeah,
their, you know, them being able to reach their goals. So there's so much
absolutely.
that I dig in deeper. And I hope anybody who's listening to this would be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Reach out to me, Carol Lake, twc@gmail.com. And I will be happy to answer any questions. And Steve, what's your email so that anybody can reach out to you?
They can contact me at steve@wellnesswarrior.coach.
There you go. So that is our podcast for today. Definitely, anybody who's listening to this, reach out to us. We would love to talk to you with any questions. And I know we're going to probably be doing some other live podcasts, and even probably throw together some webinars that we're going to have people join events for free. Just so that you can get an understanding of who I am and who Steve is, and help you with your healing in your journey towards total wellness. So until next time,
Yeah,
Steve, be well in Washington. I'm saying
you
hello
too,
from
Carol.
Florida. All right. It was great
Awesome.
talking to you. Take care,
Yeah.
everybody.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.